Have you ever had that time when you have almost forgotten why you're even doing what you're doing? I mean, you started off with passion, right? You started off with a big why. I mean, you wouldn't have even been here coaching if you didn't have a really big why of why you wanted to serve your ideal client. But goodness gracious, frustrations come. It gets hard as kingdom coaches, especially because not only do we deal with the normal frustrations of the world, but we also have an enemy that's coming against us. And we find ourselves going through the motions, forgetting why we even started, even sometimes to the point of wondering, did we even hear God right? What exactly did he say? But I think sometimes we really miss the mark because I think sometimes we get it upside down. We think that if my heart's not in it, then I ought to quit. Boy, have I heard that from some of my clients. My heart's just not in it anymore. And so we think that that's a sign from God that we're supposed to quit. But the calling of God, it hasn't changed. The truth is, it's a sign from God that we need to deal with our heart. We need to soften our heart. In 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, it tells us God's more concerned about your heart than he is about the outward. You see, we go through these motions thinking we're serving, and God's like saying, hey, I I can't bless that while you're just going through motions and your heart's not right. So he brings it to the surface so that you have to deal with it. I know he's done that for me. He will not put up with my heart being off, even if I'm obediently serving. God's going to bring that up. That's the reason why our motivation, our true success, it has to come when our heart's engaged, because God's not going to bless it. He'll give you maybe a little bit of string there, but eventually it's going to come back around. I remember when my kids were little, they're incredible kids, but I don't know why or how God shared this with me, but I knew that obedience was not enough. And people used to laugh because I would tell my kids um, to do something. And let's say they didn't want to do it and they refused to do it. And I was like, Mommy is about to deal with you, but you must do what mommy asks you to do. And then they would like sit down and cross their arms, and let's say that I'm telling them to sit down, and they sit down and they cross their arms like I'm sitting down but I'm standing up on the inside, right? And I would say, that's not enough. Obedience is not enough. You need to soften your heart. Why was I teaching my kids this when they were little? Because this skill is so important. You see, a lot of times we let our heart lead us. And sometimes that's a good thing when your heart is aligned with God, when your heart is aligned with Jesus and following Jesus the way that he wants you to. But sometimes our heart gets misaligned in the same way that the Bible tells us to guard our heart and how important it is to us. It also tells us that our heart can be deceitfully wicked. Why? Because sometimes our heart has been hardened. And so I was teaching my kids when they were little how to soften their heart. Because what's most important as a kingdom citizen, right? As a blood bought, born again, spirit filled, spirit led child of the Most High God, my heart is super important that it aligns with the Spirit of God and the calling of God on my life. So I never want to be going through the motions of obedience without, well, in my coaching business, without my heart toward my ideal client, wanting what's best for them and wanting the breakthrough and transformation that God has equipped me to give them. Same as for you. But I also never want my worship to be without my heart. I never want to serve God without my heart being involved. The condition of our heart is so important. So, can I just tell you, don't let the frustrations of this life or one difficult customer or maybe the negativity of a family member make you forget why you started. I'm going to encourage you. Go for a moment into your quiet place. Turn on some worship music and imagine crawling up right onto the throne with God in his lap. Let him wrap his arms around you, get up under the wing, the shadow of his wing, and let him remind you why you are called to do what you're called to do. If you're a coach, maybe write a letter to your ideal client that says, hey, I know you're out there and I know you're struggling with this. I need you to know I'm doing my best to get to you. I'm trying really hard. And when I get there, I'm going to help you find this. Write a genuine letter to her or him. Let them know you're coming. And never, ever, ever forget your why. So soften your heart. Don't be led by it. Let your heart be led by the Spirit of God and the call of God in your life. All right. See you in the next video. All right.